Welcome to the second Love Your Data webinar. These webinars about research data management are produced by CSC, the IT Center for Science. In this webinar, we will discuss data discovery, how research data is documented, why and where you could look for existing research data, and perhaps reuse some data. Good science requires good data management. Today, when visibility is everything in science and research and open science is common practice, it is also possible for you to use materials collected and produced in previous research. These can be research data, information on the methods employed, and, for instance, source code. This way, investments and knowledge produced in previous research can be put into new use, and research can be replicated. By reusing published research data, you can eliminate a lot of work collecting or cleaning the data, or you can just enlarge your scope by adding other datasets. More efficient use of research output can speed up research and give us new knowledge about the data. Reuse is often smart also in science.
I think the main benefit is just simply that there's no point that everyone nowadays collects data, him or herself, because the world is full of data. It's full of data streams that are produced by various dynamic processes. So we have more data than we can ever analyze. As a statistician, it's quite typical that I or we statisticians use data that are collected by others, collected and measured. Although as a teacher, I teach people how to collect and measure data, but when I do research, I mainly do it with somebody else. Of course, it would be best to be there present from the day one when the decisions are made, how to collect, how to measure things. I think I started with the social science data archive, which is kept in Tampere. And nowadays, world is full of data archives. And on my courses, at least 15 years or something, I've been using ready-made data sets. And said to students that please use them. Please don't collect your own data unless you are working in some research group where that would be an important part of the study. But my newest course, Introduction to Open Data Science, we use only open data sets from everywhere. They're very interesting and students are really working hard on that course and using R and GitHub and such tools, open tools and open data sets. So that is not the future, it's today.
When you use data produced by other people, you must, of course, always comply with the terms of use and give appropriate credit by citing the data. The terms of use are usually defined in the license, such as a Creative Commons license. Data can be completely free to use, or its use may be subject to restrictions, which are normally due to the sensitivity of information, business secrets, or agreements signed by researchers. The purpose of citing sources is, of course, to ensure that other researchers can find the same data and that the creators and contributors are given the credit they deserve. The use of persistent identifiers ensures the permanence of citations and findability of data over time. With the help of URN, DOI, or some other persistent identifiers, the dataset can be found even if its location were to change. In order to ensure the findability of data, it is important to include the persistent identifier in the citation and metadata description. Only this way one can ensure that the source in question is the correct one. In conjunction with the dataset and the persistent identifier, there should always be sufficient metadata. that is information about the dataset. The origin, content, location, license, restrictions of use, and other necessary information is important. This kind of information is published in research data catalogs. The better the description of the dataset is, the easier it is to find and use. Metadata about research datasets is published by data archives. This metadata is also collected and compiled from the archives to bigger research data catalogs that can help you find datasets from different archives, scientific fields, or even countries. Information about data archives can be found in the RE3.data.org registry. One well-known international data archive is Zenodo, that is built by CERN. We also have some local data archives, like Tietoarkisto, the biobanks, or the Language Bank of Finland. It is important to use trusted archives for data publication. This will be discussed more in another Love Your Data webinar, the one on publishing and sharing data. I will now present two relevant research data metadata services that are produced by CSC. The Etsin Research Data Finder is a catalog for the National EDA Storage Service and the Long-Term Preservation Services, and it is also a national research data catalog that harvests metadata from other sources. Thus, it is a gateway to all published research data in Finland. We are constantly looking for new sources to harvest. It is possible to manually add information about your research dataset if you have a Haka ID. The Etsin Research Data Finder is provided by the Ministry of Education and Culture, and it has been up and running since 2014. It contains information about research datasets that are published through the Ministry's services for open science, and also many other kinds of datasets. For instance, data that is published by the Data Archive for Social Sciences and the Language Bank of Finland. Many researchers have also manually added information about their datasets directly into Etsin. You can search by creator name, organization, or keyword, scientific domain, or using many other parameters. The metadata contains information about how to access the data and how you can use it. The description is very important. Here you can read more details about the dataset and how it came to be. This will help you to determine if it's suited for your needs. It is also possible to get in touch with the responsible parties if you need more information about the dataset or want to apply for access if access is restricted. Be sure to note the persistent identifier of the dataset when referring to the data. It is a persistent link that will always resolve to the landing page of the dataset. There may also be different language versions of the metadata. Etsin only stores metadata, not the data itself. In order to describe a dataset, you need to authenticate yourself by logging in with Haka. Etsin is a service provided by the Ministry of Education and Culture. The service is produced by CSC IT Center for Science. BeDefined is a European discovery service based on information about research data harvested from the UDAT data centers and other repositories. You can use B2FIND if you want to find collections of scientific data quickly and easily, irrespective of the origin, discipline, or community. B2FIND is open to all researchers and scientists free of charge. B2FIND is a UDAT service. Data without metadata isn't research data. It needs to be well documented so that it can be stored and cited. It is good scientific practice to document your data well. It serves both your future self and your colleagues. Researchers should have an own personal and unique identifier that will undo the harm of different spelling of a name, or if someone changes their personal name. Or maybe someone else has exactly the same name as you. A personal and persistent identifier called ORCID will help linking all your publications and outputs to you. It will also help you identify other researchers when you need to. Always remember to use your ORCID, whatever you publish. Not only people, but also publications and datasets need their own persistent identifier. Using it when citing will ensure that the research will be linked to the correct dataset in a sustainable way. By clicking a persistent identifier on the web, you will always be redirected to a landing page where you can find information about the dataset and how to access the data. A unique and persistent identifier assures the correct dataset can be identified in a sustainable way. An essential part of the metadata is information about how the dataset can be used. It's good if you can use licenses that are international and machine readable. This is a really handy way to facilitate reuse and help spreading your research. We recommend using CC BY that allows reuse with the only condition that the creator is given attribution, or the Creative Commons rights waiver CC0, whereby all copyright is waived. Remember that access could still be restricted for other ethical, legal, or contractual reasons. The CC licenses only cover copyright. Be as open as you can with only the restrictions you have to comply with. The better access, the more visibility, impact, and reuse. We remember that using keywords, sometimes called subject headings, is a really good idea. This helps searching and finding relevant data. Preferably use existing control vocabularies and the terminology that is specific for your own field. Use the most specific and exact terms possible. The description or abstract is the most important information for someone who wants to use a dataset. Always give detailed information about how the data has been collected or created, and tell everything about it that might be relevant, also the limitations and flaws it might have. In the next Love Your Data webinar, we will tell you more about storing research data. And on the 4th of November, you will hear about sharing data. Now, thank you for joining today. So, if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. You can search, the question was if people without Haka login details can access Etsin, and for now, you cannot create or describe your own datasets in Edson without a Haka credential, but you can search. You can do searches in Haka, or sorry, in Edson. Thank you.